Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are diving into a story
Oh, yeah.
that's gonna make you question everything you thought you knew
Okay.
about power and justice and the
Right.
deep-seated biases
Hmm.
that still permeate our systems.
Okay.
We've got a YouTube video from Mr. William Stories.
Right.
It's titled, "Racist Cops Arrest Elderly Black Man Until He Makes One Phone Call
Oh,
to the
wow.
Supreme Court."
Interesting.
You know, one of those like, wait, did that really happen?
Yeah.
Stories?
Yeah.
And trust me, this one is a wild ride.
I'm intrigued. Let's hear it. Yeah.
So what's so fascinating about this story is how it peels back
Yeah.
the layers of privilege and exposes the raw nerves of prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about
Yeah.
who holds power,
Exactly.
how they wield it, and
Yeah.
the fight for accountability
Right.
in a system that's often rigged against
Yeah.
the marginalized.
Absolutely.
So, okay, let's unpack this. So the story unfolds outside the Hamiltons. It's a high-end restaurant
Mm-hmm.
in a wealthy part of an unspecified city.
Okay.
Right away, you see the stark contrast.
Yeah.
Luther Grant,
Mhm.
a retired Supreme Court justice,
Okay.
dressed impeccably,
All right.
is simply waiting for his granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
He's standing on a public sidewalk, yet his presence seems to trigger
Oh.
something in the officers.
I see.
So think about the setting for a moment.
Okay.
The Hamilton,
Yeah.
with its quiet arrogance of wealth,
Oh,
as
okay.
the story describes it,
Okay.
represents a world
Right.
that's often inaccessible, even invisible to those outside of its privileged circle.
I see.
Luther,
Okay.
a distinguished black man,
Mm-hmm.
is a visual anomaly
Right.
in this environment,
Yeah.
and that becomes the basis for the officer's suspicion.
Wow.
So we meet officers Rohr and Kincaid,
Okay.
and you immediately pick up on their dismissive attitude, the way
Right.
they use their authority, like a weapon.
Right.
They approach Luther with flimsy accusations,
Right.
loitering, and suspicious activity
Uh-huh.
without even bothering to ask for his ID.
Wow. That's...
That lack of due diligence
Yeah.
speaks volumes.
It does.
They've already judged Luther based on his appearance,
Wow.
and their actions are driven by
Mm-hmm.
prejudice, not procedure.
Yeah.
You see this throughout the story.
Okay.
The casual cruelty, the enjoyment they seem to take in asserting their dominance
Oh.
over someone they perceive as powerless.
Oh, wow.
It's infuriating, right? This blatant disrespect toward a man who has reached the pinnacle of the legal profession. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Luther doesn't play their game.
Interesting.
He remains calm,
Mm-hmm.
composed,
Yeah.
almost regal in
Yeah.
his defiance.
Okay.
That composure,
Yeah.
that unwavering dignity in the face of such blatant aggression is crucial to understanding Luther's character.
I see.
It speaks to his resilience,
Okay.
his deep understanding of the law,
Mm-hmm.
and the subtle ways in which he uses it
Right.
to disarm his opponents.
Wow.
He repeatedly reminds them they're making a mistake,
Uh-huh.
even invoking his status as a retired Supreme Court justice.
Bold move.
And their reaction, mocking laughter.
Oh, wow.
It's like they're daring him to prove them wrong.
Wow.
This is a classic power play.
It is.
They want to provoke him
Yeah.
to get a reaction
Right.
that will justify their actions.
Exactly.
But Luther sees right through their tactics.
Uh-huh.
He doesn't give them the satisfaction of seeing him break.
Smart.
And then his granddaughter, Claire,
Okay.
arrives at the scene.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel the tension escalate.
Yeah.
She immediately understands what's happening, the
Oh, right.
injustice of it all,
Uh-huh.
and starts recording the incident on her phone.
Good.
Claire's arrival introduces a new dynamic to the story. She's a witness,
Yeah.
a voice of reason.
Mm-hmm.
And her presence, especially with her phone recording,
Right.
disrupts the power balance.
Yeah.
The officers have tried to establish
Which is-
she pleads with them,
All right.
revealing Luther's true identity,
Mhm.
but they're dismissive,
Really?
arrogant.
Wow.
They arrest him anyway.
Oh, my God.
But as they lead him toward the squad car,
Yeah.
there's a shift
Yeah.
in Luther's demeanor.
Mm.
It's subtle,
Yeah.
but it's there.
I see.
Think about what's going through his mind at that moment.
Okay.
He knows who he is,
Yeah.
the position he's held,
Right.
the weight of his experience.
Mm-hmm.
He's not just an elderly black man
Right.
being harassed by two racist cops.
Yeah.
He's a living embodiment of justice itself.
Wow.
And they've made a grave error in judgment.
I see.
It's like he's playing chess while they're playing checkers.
Uh-huh.
He knows this isn't just about him.
Mm-hmm.
It's about something much bigger. And that's where we'll leave you hanging for now.
Oh, no.
Because the story is about to take a turn,
Okay.
a sharp turn into the heart of a corrupt system.
Right.
Join us in part 2
Okay.
as we explore the fallout from this fateful arrest.
I can't wait.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
When we left off, Justice Grant had just been placed
Right.
in a holding cell at the 17th precinct.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what must have been going through his mind?
Oh, I can only imagine.
So the story paints a vivid picture
Yeah.
of that holding cell,
Okay.
describing it as a place
Right.
where dignity goes to die.
Oh, wow.
It's a stark reminder
Yeah.
of the dehumanizing nature of the system, how people are stripped of their identity
Right.
and reduced to just another case number.
I see.
And you can practically feel the tension in the air
Yeah.
as officers Rohr and Kincaid
Right.
stand outside the cell watching Luther.
Right.
They're expecting him to crumble,
Mhm.
to beg, to
Yeah.
give them some kind of reaction.
That would justify their actions.
Wow.
Their behavior is almost predatory.
It is.
They're feeding off his silence, his composure,
Uh-huh.
misinterpreting it as weakness.
I see.
Remember Kincaid's taunt?
Yeah, what was it?
Is that some kind of power move, old man? The silent treatment.
Oh, wow.
They simply can't comprehend
Right.
the strength it takes
Mm-hmm.
to maintain dignity
Yeah.
in the face of such injustice.
It's incredible.
But Luther's not interested in playing their game.
Yeah, okay.
He understands that true power
Right.
lies in restraint,
Yeah.
in choosing his battles wisely.
Interesting.
His response:
What did he say?
I do not need to fight a man who is already drowning.
Oh, my goodness.
Chilling, isn't it?
It is.
He knows that Rohr and Kincaid
Yeah.
have already sealed their fate.
Right.
Their arrogance, their blind prejudice,
Mm-hmm.
has set in motion a chain of events they can't control.
Wow.
And it's not just the officers.
No.
Their supervisor, Sergeant O'Malley.
Embodies the systemic rot
Uh-huh.
that allows this kind of abuse to flourish.
Right.
He tries to intervene,
Okay.
telling Rohr and Kincaid to knock it off.
Hmm.
Not because he recognizes the injustice, but because he doesn't want the headache.
Oh, wow.
O'Malley represents the bystander effect on an
Ah.
institutional level.
Right.
He's aware of the problem,
Yeah.
but he chooses to look the other way,
Mhm.
hoping it will just go away.
Oh, gosh.
He's more concerned with maintaining order
Right.
than upholding justice.
Wow.
A dangerous mindset, wouldn't you say?
It is very dangerous.
But the tide turns
Oh,
when
oh.
Claire Grant arrives at the precinct
All right.
with a very important person, Assistant U.S. Attorney
Oh, wow.
Daniel Harrington.
Okay.
The story describes the atmosphere as
Yeah.
shifting instantly,
Mm-hmm.
the air thickening with a sense of impending boom.
I see.
Harrington's arrival signals a dramatic power shift.
Right.
The officers, so smug and confident just moments ago, are now visibly shaken.
Okay.
They recognize that Harrington represents a force they can't control,
Yeah.
a force that holds them accountable.
I see.
And Harrington doesn't waste any time.
All right.
He uses his authority, his presence,
Mhm.
to cut through the bureaucratic red tape.
Okay.
He demands to see Justice Grant,
Interesting.
intentionally using Luther's full title
Right.
to emphasize the gravity of the situation.
Smart.
A brilliant tactic.
It is.
By invoking Luther's title,
Yeah.
Harrington forces everyone in the room,
Okay.
especially Sergeant O'Malley, to
Mhm.
confront the magnitude of their mistake.
Right.
It's no longer just some old man they've
Yeah.
arrested.
Exactly.
It's a retired Supreme Court justice.
Wow.
O'Malley's reaction is priceless.
Oh, what happened?
He pales.
Okay.
He hesitates.
Yeah.
He tries to downplay the situation,
Mm-hmm.
but Harrington is relentless.
He is.
He demands to know where Justice Grant is being held,
Right.
and O'Malley has no choice but to comply. This is where you see the system starting to crumble.
I see it.
The walls of indifference,
Yeah.
the layers of bureaucracy
Right.
that have protected these officers for so long are being stripped away.
That's about time.
The release scene is incredibly powerful.
Oh, tell me about it.
Luther doesn't rush out of the holding cell.
Okay.
He takes his time,
Mm-hmm.
savoring the moment,
Right.
allowing the silence to speak volumes.
I see.
It's a silent victory, wouldn't you say?
Oh, it absolutely is.
He's already won,
Yeah.
and everyone in that room knows it.
I bet.
And when Harrington demands to see the arresting officers,
Okay.
the story describes O'Malley's expression
Yeah.
as a man walking towards something he did not want to face.
Oh, wow.
The unraveling has begun. The confrontation between Harrington and Officers Rohr and Kincaid is explosive.
Oh, my goodness.
Harrington doesn't hold back.
What did he say?
He calls them out for their arrogance, their incompetence. The sheer stupidity of arresting a retired Supreme Court justice without even checking his ID.
Wow.
You can almost feel the officers shrinking.
I can imagine.
Under the weight of his words.
Yeah.
They try to defend themselves, claiming they were just doing their job. But Harrington cuts them off. Your job, he reminds them, is to uphold the law, not to abuse it.
Exactly.
And then he delivers the knockout punch, informing them that their careers are over.
Oh, wow.
Their pensions in question. Their futures ruined.
I see.
And it's not just the officers who are being held accountable. Captain Sloan, who initially tried to sweep the incident under the rug, finds himself caught in the crossfire.
Oh, no.
Sloan's attempt to downplay the situation backfires spectacularly.
It does.
He represents the leadership that has allowed this culture of corruption to fester. He tries to offer cooperation, but Harrington makes it clear that he has no choice. The investigation is going to be thorough, and Sloan is going to be held responsible for his failure to address the misconduct within his precinct.
Wow.
It's a pivotal moment in the story.
It is.
We see the consequences of inaction, the price of turning a blind eye to injustice.
Absolutely.
And then Luther steps in, adding his own layer of condemnation.
I see.
He points out that this isn't just about a few bad officers. It's about a system that breeds and protects them.
Wow.
You should be worried about your own survival, he tells Sloan.
Oh, my.
It's a chilling reminder.
It is.
That the consequences are going to reach far beyond Rohr and Kincaid. The entire system is on trial.
Wow.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Okay.
So we've seen how the arrest of Justice Grant ignited a firestorm at the 17th Precinct, exposing a web of corruption and sparking a chain reaction that reaches far beyond those directly involved. But the story doesn't end with the downfall of Rohr, Kincaid, and Captain Sloan. It expands to show how this one incident triggered a wave of change.
I see.
That ripples through the entire system.
Interesting.
That's the power of accountability, isn't it?
It is.
What started as a seemingly isolated case of injustice become a catalyst for a systemic overhaul.
I see.
The Department of Justice. Spurred by the blatant disregard for Justice Grant's rights. Launches a full-scale investigation, uncovering a pattern of misconduct that has been festering for years.
Oh, wow.
It's like lifting a rock and finding a nest of vipers underneath.
Oh, my goodness.
Suddenly, the 17th Precinct, once a bastion of authority, becomes a symbol of everything that's wrong with the system.
Wow.
And it's not just about rooting out the bad apples. It's about addressing the underlying conditions that allowed this culture of impunity to flourish.
I see.
Think about the fear that must have permeated the precinct. The knowledge that anyone could be next.
Oh, gosh.
It's fascinating to see
It is.
how Luther, despite being the victim of this injustice, ends up driving the narrative. He's not just a passive observer. He's actively shaping the outcome. Using his knowledge of the law and his understanding of power dynamics to ensure that justice prevails.
Wow.
That's what makes this story so compelling.
It is.
Luther's composure, his unwavering dignity throughout this ordeal, becomes a weapon against the system that tried to silence him.
Wow.
He's a living embodiment of the saying.
What is it?
Justice delayed is justice denied.
Powerful.
And his courtroom testimony is particularly powerful. He doesn't resort to anger or bitterness. Instead, he uses his words to expose the deep-seated prejudice that fueled his arrest. He eloquently articulates how the officer saw him as a problem to be dealt with.
Oh, gosh.
Not as a human being deserving of respect and dignity. His testimony resonates with the jury.
It does.
Dismantling the defense's attempts to minimize the officer's actions.
Oh, I see.
The guilty verdict is a victory not just for Luther, but for everyone who has been marginalized, mistreated, and silenced by those in authority.
It is.
It sends a clear message.
And what's that?
This kind of behavior will no longer be tolerated.
Good.
And the impact of this case extends far beyond the courtroom.
Okay.
The Department of Justice announces a series of reforms aimed at addressing systemic issues within law enforcement, including mandatory bias training and stricter accountability measures.
I see.
It's a hopeful note.
It is.
Suggesting that Luther's case has sparked a movement toward real lasting change.
That's great.
But it's important to remember
what's that?
That the fight for justice is an ongoing process.
It is.
There will always be those who abuse their power.
Sadly, yes.
Who exploit the system for their own gain.
Right.
So what does this deep dive teach us?
I don't know. What do you think?
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in holding those in power accountable.
Right.
We can't be complacent. We have to be vigilant. To speak out against injustice.
Yes.
And to demand better from our institutions.
I agree.
Luther Grant's story shows us that one person's courage can make a difference.
It really can.
It's a call to action for all of us.
I agree.
To be informed, to be engaged, and to never stop fighting for a more just and equitable world.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Right.
Join us next time as we continue to explore stories that challenge our assumptions, spark our curiosity, and remind us of the power of human resilience in the face of adversity.
I can't wait.